Okay, I just want to do a quick review of how to factor a cubic, just for those of you who need a little refresher. So here's my question. I'm going to factor f of x, and I've got a cubic function here. I'm going to use the factor theorem, and I'm going to use long division in this example, but you can use synthetic as well, that's fine. In order to come up with, the first thing I need to figure out is like, what can I even divide by, because I'm going to use my division. So coming up with what to divide by, I take a look at the constant at the end of my function, and I'm going to check factors of this number. So that tells me to check like plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2 also divide 24, plus or minus 3 also divide, like this one's not a friendly one because there's a ton of divisors, and it just keeps going, right? The next one would be 6, and then 8, and etc. all the way up to including 24 would also be there. So lots and lots of factors to check here. And so I just kind of go through the list, and I'm going to write down what I've tried so that I don't forget and end up double checking things. So when I plug 1 into this function, I would get 1 minus 5 minus 2 plus 24. That does not equal 0. And what I'm looking for is a number that I plug in that'll make the equation equal 0. And so I just keep trying numbers off of this list until I get something that equals 0. So when I try like -1, that doesn't equal 0. And I would keep going through here. And sometimes you can kind of have an idea that you need it to be a bigger number. And here when I get to 4 and I plug in 4 here, I am going to get 0 when I type that all in. And so this is what I was looking for, the number that I plug in that gives me 0 as the answer for the function. And then what this tells me is that x minus this number is a factor. So if it's a plus 4 in here, it becomes x minus 4. If this one had worked, then the factor would be x plus 1. Even though I plugged in -1, it's the opposite. And so now I'm going to set up my long division. And again, if you're comfortable with synthetic, you can do that. I find this one's easier to remember years down the road when you haven't used it in a while. And that's what kind of happens, right, through mathematics. This is just like one strategy that's going to show up in the middle of questions. You won't use it repeatedly like you did in advanced functions. Okay, so for long division, what you're going to do is take a look at the first term in the divisor and the first term in the function, and you're looking for x times what will give me x cubed. And so it's going to be x squared, and I'm going to write that above the x squared column. I'm kind of always stacking the matching exponents here. And now that I've got that number, or that term, I'm going to multiply it through the divisor. So I'm going to multiply x squared times x, and I get x cubed. And then x squared times -4 gives me -4x squared. And again, I stacked those answers under the correct column. And now I'm going to subtract. When I subtract the first two, I should always get 0. If I don't, then I chose this x squared incorrectly. So that's coming out to 0. And now I'm moving on to subtracting here. So -5 minus -4, that means plus 4, gives me -x squared, or -1x squared is fine as well. And now what we're going to do is bring down the next term. And now I'm just going to repeat the same process. So again, I'm looking at the first term and the first term, and I'm asking myself, what do I need to multiply by to turn the x into -x squared? And so I need to multiply by -x. I'll write it up at the top above the x column. And then I'm going to multiply that -x through the divisor. So -x times x gives me -x squared. And -x times -4 gives me positive 4x. And then I'm going to subtract. Again, the first one should always equal 0. And then -2 minus 4 gives me -6x. And then I'll bring down the next term. And now I'm going to ask myself, x times what will give me -6x? So it's going to be -6, and then -6 through the divisor. -6 times x gives me -6x. -6 times -24 gives me positive 24. And then when I subtract this last one, I actually end up with 0 for both of them. And I knew that this was going to happen because up here I got 0, and that number should match what I get down here. So that tells me, I'm kind of checking out my work here. I know that I'm on the right track. So what I've figured out now, before I had this big long cubic expression for f at x, here it is up here. And what I figured out is another way to write that is using this divisor x minus 4 times this quotient up here, x squared minus x minus 6. And I'm almost done. I just haven't finished factoring this question. The first bracket is fully factored, but the second bracket is not. I'm going to just use my quadratic factoring for that. So I'm asking myself about two numbers that multiply to -6 and add to -1. And those two numbers are going to be -3 and +2. And so because it's a simple trinomial, there's just a 1 in front of the x squared, I can go straight to brackets with x's in the front. And then I just pop those two numbers right into the brackets. And the order doesn't matter here. It would only matter if you were solving this, and then you would need to write your solutions in order for in increasing order. All right. Good luck with those questions.